Welcome back to Les Schwab Tire Center's Outdoor GPS. Now it's real time, sponsored by the Mill Casino.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us on this Sunday morning. We've got Don New from Hatchery and Wild here in the studio. And Don, first things first, it's great to see you.
You too.
Been steelhead fishing? You've been out? He has been if he's not answering.
Not for 4 weeks.
Oh, well then no he hasn't. Anyway, but we're going to talk about your newest short film from Hatchery and Wild. Now, before we get into that, how many films have you guys already done up to this point? There's been a couple at least, hasn't there?
Yeah, the original film we did when we started 4 years ago, within the first year, was in response to a clothing company's hit piece on hatcheries called Artificial. We came out with Beneficial, and it basically was written and produced to debunk 6 or 8 of the strange, egregious things that were done by those guys.
The lies, but he's very political, I am not.
And then the second one was a general hatchery film for people that don't know much about hatcheries. It's Hatcheries Are Not the Enemy. And, you know, it's fun. I looked at the numbers this week, and we've had 45,000 views. Now, in addict numbers, that's nothing. They've watched that this morning.
Right.
But for us, that's huge. And probably at least 50% forwards of that same. So we've probably had 60 to 70,000 views. So that's really good, you know. But it was intended, the second one intended really to educate, talk about the history, mitigation, the relationship with the Army Corps of Engineers and why these things had to happen, why hatcheries are there. Just a general piece. We thought we were happy with it.
Now, this is a new one. Hasn't been premiered yet. It's going to premiere tomorrow.
Right.
Where will folks that are watching and everybody else that you're going to tell about it be able to catch it when it does come out? Yeah.
So tomorrow afternoon or Tuesday, you'll be able to go on our Facebook page, Hatchery Wild Coexist. You can just go to any browser. If you're not already a fan of the site, you can go to Hatchery Wild Coexist, and there'll be a link in the text box, and that will link to YouTube.
Okay.
You can go to YouTube once it's up. Hatchery Wild Coexist, again on YouTube. That's our channel, and it'll be the first film in the array of films that we've done.
Okay. And it's all about broodstock programs. So give us a little bit of a we have a clip. We're going to show you a clip here in just a minute, but can you give us just a brief idea of what this film will be about? What's the meat on the bone?
Sure. 3 years ago, we produced this piece. It's a little primer on wild broodstock programs to help with the momentum toward that, more work with the hatcheries for wild broodstock. We did this and then decided a couple of years later to do this new film. And that's part of the genesis. The kind of fun part was that the Oregon Anglers Alliance, Leonard Krug, down south, called me and said, hey, we got a little money? You got a project? And I said, we sure do. And that's why we did this. It was co-sponsored by Procure, Steve Lynch and Hambly, our buddies there. Speaking of steelhead fishing in low water, if you don't put krill or some sort of anise on whatever you're using, you won't catch fish. Sorry. But anyway, Leonard, God rest his soul, passed away during this production. Fishing. Great guy. The people down at OAA are trying to figure out where they are. Stan Steele and Josh and those guys are really looking at how to keep the program going. But without their assistance with Procure, this last film wouldn't happen. We had kind of a diving save that we didn't expect from Joseph Warble, the guy that's bringing back the Okie Drifter, Robilize. I met him 2 years ago at a kids event, and he said, hey, I want to put your logo on my packaging. And I said, great. And he goes, and I'm going to pay you. So fast forward 2 years, and he gets traction, and we got a little bitty piece of every package that he sold, and got a check at the end of the year, and that's happening. That's helped us finish the editing and some promotion for that piece.
Okay, very good. We love that, and they catch fish. People have been sending lots of photos in about that, of course. The old Okie Drifter is back. There's no doubt about it. Okay, so let's go ahead and show the clip that we have, and we won't even need to tee it up. We're just going to show it for you, just to give you just a quick blip of what you might expect when you do watch the video, and all your friends, and when you forward it to everyone, so we can get that out there to as many people as possible, so that they can actually get a little bit of education on broodstock programs.
The broodstock program has been very successful here is because of great volunteer work and volunteers that work with ODFW. We raise funds for the projects where the community is really involved, and that's important. It's just like complaining gets you nowhere, but if you are willing to work and do something, that makes progress. Hatcheries were originally built to mitigate for environmental damage and over-harvesting that has occurred through human intervention. And they worked really well for them. I mean, they brought good numbers of fish. It's important for you to know that before 1985, there were no fin clips. So it was around 1985 they started clipping fish. They started hatcheries in the late 1800s. And so for a long time, no one knew what a hatchery fish and what was. And when they started clipping fins, that's when people started saying, well, hatchery fish are bad now. But again, they worked really well to mitigate for losses. And we should go back to doing what works, not what doesn't. Because this whole wild fish only and see if the environment will go back, it doesn't work. It's not working.
Well, I think that's kind of obvious. You can't have wild fish return when they're already gone, but we're not going to get, I won't get sidetracked with that. He made a comment there about them they had not clipped fish until the mid-'80s. Nobody prior to that, since they've been around for, geez, well, if you think about it, if that was the mid-'80s, for crying out loud, 80 some odd years, hatcheries had been around, but they were not clipped. People didn't realize if there was one clipped or not. Nobody started complaining about them. At least the idiots didn't start complaining about it until they started seeing fish that had clipped fins. I remember that when I was growing up on the Sandy and the Clackamas River, all the fish that we'd caught and kept, they always had. We never saw that before.
Right.
I got into high school. I didn't start fishing as much as I wasn't fishing as much as I was when I was younger. When I got out of high school and got crazed, again, about chasing steelhead around, I had kind of noticed it then. But now to these days, we've got a lot of different programs that are out there. Broodstock programs are just another way to really make that gene pool of those hatchery fish much, much better. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, the important word in this piece and in this booklet, which is available on our website, and there'll be a link off our website, our regular website, to the video by tomorrow late as well. The key word is wild broodstock. So these fish are live spawned, coddled, as you'll see in the film, to get them to the hatchery so that the hatchery people can live spawn them, and then they can swim on to have another great day, or get caught and do it again. But the genetics, which has been one of the kind of the complaints in the quiver of the wild fish zealots, is that we're messing with the gene pool. Well, they're still going to say that because we're helping these fish basically make babies. Bull. I'll tell you, that's just bull.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, you'll see science. You're going to hear from scientists and bios and stuff in the video, as well as data for studies. And if you take a wild broodstock, and you'll see in the video, you'll see Jack Glass catch a roughly 16-pound maxillary clipped fish, brute of a fish. And you look at the DNA of that fish that was live spawned, and the other two that we released that were not, it's tiny. And even if it's tiny, so what? So what? Would you rather just not have any fish?
Right.
Let's just get rid of the hatcheries, get rid of sport angling, get rid of the commercials. That's not going to get rid of bad oceans. And so you're going to have all these wild fish going out, right? And is there some sense that those are going to recover to abundance without mitigation from hatchery fish? Is an orca going to look out over a field of 100 fish in 20 years and they're all wild, and he's going to go, oh no, ESA listed. Come on,
right.
Let's get a life. That's the only thing that we as pro-hatchery people have to question is, okay, you tell me, if you only have wild fish, and there are fewer, obviously, there's 75% on the Columbia hatchery, or 90% on the hatchery are clipped fish, marked fish. You tell me how that works.
Right.
Because the orcas are still there. The
sea lions are still there.
The sea lions, and I have something to say about sea lions for a minute, but the sea lions are still there. The bad oceans that we can't control anymore.
Cormorants and mergansers.
Cormorants, mergansers.
The seagulls.
Culverts, dams. I mean, give me a break.
Yeah.
And that's why we do these videos. So people that are mildly, maybe not concerned or mild about it, they get some ammo, something that allows them to say, yes, I believe in hatcheries, rather than watch a LA company do a film, show horrible underwater scenes of open pens with Atlantic salmon dying. You know, this is in the Puget Sound, right?
Yeah.
Breaching the thing, and they conflated that with inland hatcheries. That's where their movie happened. They got the drama of that.
Right.
It's part of the one we've done before, the beneficial video. But it's just goofy to, the Liars and Thieves were the producers along with this other company. And that's where the drama was for them. But it hurt us because it made people think these deformed fish and the slime in the water and these breached open pens are the same as a hatchery. Give me a break.
Which they're not even the same wavelength. It's not even the same process. The whole thing, I watched it. I stomached my way through it back when it first came out and prior to Beneficial being released. I kind of had to. I needed to see, you know, what these idiots, excuse me. No, excuse me. These idiots are putting together. That's my words, not that of anybody else. And it was lies from the very beginning to the very, very end when they did their little wrap-up. I couldn't believe that they were even allowed to do that. That's when my first initial thought was, lawsuit, lawsuit. I mean, how do they get away with this? And, you know, in the end, big picture of things, money is the root of all evil, everyone. And they got a lot of money and they want to protect their mortgage payment. So it really is, I get into the weeds onto that sometimes, but.
Well, I was in the premiere downtown at the store of this clothing company with about 300 people. Yeah. And there were two of us there that were hatchery people. And I was handing out brochures and stickers. And I actually had a sticker on the front of the place for 2 weeks before they saw it. But these people walked out like little zombies. And they're going, oh, my God, hatcheries. They didn't see the difference between hatcheries and
net pens.
Yeah, net pens. They bought it.
It's sad.
And they've had at that point, had 2.4 million views.
That's insane.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. You know, there's lots of terms out there for it. I'm going to refrain from getting into that. Okay, let's cut to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Don New. We're talking about their newest short film, all about broodstock programs and why they need your support and how you can watch this video for the first time tomorrow, as well as share it across the world. Okay? Not just here, everywhere. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Outdoor GPS is brought to you by Chevy Silverado and the impressive Turbo Max engine. Flex your muscle with the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever. Official truck of Outdoor GPS.